Could you just talk me through what you think the role of a chief people officer is in defining the tech stack, defining the tech strategy, and how that's changed over the last few years?
I think it starts with workforce effectiveness at the beginning. The job of HR is to help everybody be the best it can be. In the modern workforce, that's got to be including a digital plan. It's got to be including the right digital tools so that everybody can be more productive in their roles. And that can range from education on how to use them right through to stuff happening in the background that means people can focus where the value added sits, as it were.
Effectiveness of the workforce.
Yeah.
Have you been able to bring in the same principles to support, the actual core of what the business does or any of the other functions? What do you see your role in there?
Some of it is upskilling the awareness of what tech can do for you. Our next stage, we're still building out the functionality of our learning system. Some of it will be on your technical skills. Some of it is just to be aware of what's coming, because AI is going to get deployed quicker. The speed you can do stuff now is so much quicker than it was a few years ago, but that's going to increase exponentially. And 5 years from now, it's going to be very different to what it is today.
This episode is brought to you by Instant Impact. Instant Impact provides transformative talent solutions to small and mid-sized companies that are making between 30 and 500 hires each year. If your recruitment's giving you a headache and you don't know where to start, then give the team at Instant Impact a call or visit www.instant-impact.com for more information.
Hello and welcome to We Need to Talk About HR. I'm your host, Felix Mitchell. The HR tech landscape has transformed beyond recognition over the past 5 years. We've gone from basic HRIS systems and applicant tracking systems to sophisticated tech stacks that can genuinely transform how both the people function and the wider business operates. But whilst we've got all of this brilliant tooling at our disposal, many HR teams still aren't getting anywhere near maximizing the potential of that technology. My guest today is Heath Buck. He's the Chief People Officer of Atmos Wealth, where he's built a tech stack that allows his small but mighty HR team to punch well above their weight. Heath has kindly agreed to lift the hood on his HR tech stack and discuss HR's role in leading digital transformation across the wider organization. Heath, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, before we jump into your tech stack, which I'm really excited to do, by the way, could you just talk me through what you think the role of a chief people officer is in defining the tech stack, defining the tech strategy, and how that's changed over the last few years?
Well, I think it starts with workforce effectiveness at the beginning. And so the job of HR is to help everybody be the best it can be. In the modern workforce, that's got to be including a digital plan. It's got to be including the right digital tools so that everybody can be more productive in their roles. And that can range from education on how to use them right through to stuff happening in the background that means people can focus where the value added sits, as it were.
And I think one of the really interesting, almost sort of defining feelings of our time is, God, there's so much tech. There's tech for everything. There's tech for every function, for every task, for every thought that we have. Where do you get started with all of that?
So I start with looking at the people experience, which is interesting because when you think of tech, everybody instantly goes to the technology and, if you like, computers and software and stuff. But it actually starts with the human side because tech is there to support people. Where's the value added and where's the time being spent? So when I look at the people experience, and you get it from two sides, employee experience or you get the managerial experience. An employee experience is, how do I feel when I join? Is this a company I like? Is this a company I want to work for? And will it get the best out of me? For managers is actually, how do I manage my people more effectively?
Yes.
So 9 times out of 10, the first starting point I've got in my tech stack is you actually look at recruitment, because recruitment is where most of the time is spent by managers. It's the bit they may not do for 2 years and suddenly they get 2 people leave at once. Mm-hmm. And if you get 2 good people versus 2 bad people, it's very different. What we're trying to do is take all the admin out managing the candidates so that actually you can focus on the candidates who's best for the role. So we start there and then we work to other more key systems.
It's really interesting because I think recruitment is one of those areas that you know that's the line of work that I'm in. It always strikes me as one of those areas where, first of all, I think people underestimate both the amount of time that it takes, the amount of just administrative time, but then also planning time, the time in the interview, the time screening CVs, the time training someone up, which I think you also have to sort of include in that same equation. So they underestimate that, and then they also underestimate how big a business decision it should be, because it's not just. I mean, let's say you're bringing in a new manager into your team. The impact that person will have on your organization is huge. And if you were thinking about any other £70,000 investment in your business, you put so much more rigor into that than most people do a hiring decision. And I think that feels like a real missed trick. So you mentioned taking admin out. How about putting more insights in to sort of aid that?
So this is where you build up that tech stack. So you start with your applicant tracking system, which is basically managing the admin. I then tend to go to the core HR system, and then I'll go back and add the bells and whistles to the assessment. So we use, am I allowed to say the...
Plug away.
We use Assess First to do the psychological assessments. Mm-hmm. And I'll come to why that was a choice for us, because lots of people use different things, but it was the right choice for us. And it all plugs in nicely to our applicant tracking system, which Team Taylor at the moment. So you can assess people and get a view on their personality and soft traits. Mm. It doesn't tell you the answer, none of these things do, but they're all additional data points. There's a Warwick business school. They did a study on happy and positive workers versus negative workers. And their theory was there's a 22% productivity gap. Wow. So that's just on your level of positivity. I think in my industry that relies on highly skilled people, the difference between average and great is probably about 40% productivity. Pure guess, it's anecdotal, but therefore, and that's assuming the same spend if you just get somebody who's a better fit for your needs. Therefore, it's worth getting the right person in whatever that takes, because if you look at it from a cost point of view, you need less of them. If it's not a cost point of view, you're just going to get more done. It all depends what your objectives are.
There's a book, No Rules Rules.
Love that book.
I thought you might. But, they're talking. There's all this, for those who haven't read it, it's the story of essentially the management principles of Netflix and how they look at talent within their organization. And they're sort of obsessed by this concept that if you get someone right at the top of their game, in particularly for strategic and creative roles, they'll be able to deliver 2-3x what someone who's sort of good performer or an average performer would be able to do. So they're very much, and I'm also a big adherent to this, of the mindset that it's better to pay 20-30% above market rate to get the right person in, to get that 2-3x return for your organization while they're with you. So it's really interesting to see where the long-term impact of those hiring decisions.
Yeah. And I've got to say, I've seen the same. The challenge you get is when you get these big tech firms, and I've worked at tech startups, you get funding and they've got the budgets to overpay market to get the best of the best. In other firms, it might be your budget's constrained, or it might be that you've got some flex on your budget, but whatever that number is, I tend to gravitate towards the higher level, provided they're worth it. But within, if you fix salary, how do I get the best for my money? And there is a major variation, and it's not just on what you pay them. You pay two people the same amount, one just delivered 50% more all year, every year. And that's, how do I spend time finding that person where it's not going to be writing them lots of letters saying, here's where you are in the process. And that's where your tech stack comes in. is also how do I make sure I'm chosen? So what you've got to do whenever you've got that, if it's a hiring tech stack, is you've got to make them feel engaged with the business. You can send automated emails that feel personal. So we were chatting earlier about it's been the humanity back into AI. So what I don't want to do is send automated emails that look like automated emails. So you use more casual language. Because 20 years ago, that looked like you weren't very professional. Now people are so used to formal corporate sort of emails coming to them. When you're writing casual language, they go, okay, this is about me personally.
Yeah, and I think one of the amazing things about AI is it allows for that personalization at scale. So one of the really cool things that we do for a few of our clients is that we put in an AI chatbot, which of course you identify it as AI, but we've just had such good feedback from candidates who said that they're used to immediate, we're all used to immediate engagement. I would much rather have a conversation, either voice or message with an AI chatbot, knowing I'll get the answers immediately, than wait to the next day to have a conversation with a human. Now, I know there are some people who are the other way around, but it allows you that optionality as well as the personalization. I think that's just such a cool, and we basically had, the candidate experience only had one way to go from where it's been over the last couple of years, but it's really good to see tooling that's getting us in the right.
But you've also got the impact on the candidate experience. So 3 years ago, I was looking for a job that got me to where I am now. On a good day, I could send out 30 valid applications in a day. Now, I couldn't do that all day, every day, because by the end of the week, you're seeing the same job adverts. But if candidates are scaling up their applications, you either turn around and say, are they really bought into my company? But unless you're a Google or Facebook, HSBC, one of the big brand names, they're probably not. They probably just like your job, and they've forgotten they've applied. So the other way to say is actually, I accept that you may not remember all the applications you've sent. So our acknowledgement email actually automates in. It says, thank you for applying, and it will have insert job title. Here's where you find it. Because I expect them to come to the interview knowing about the job, but I don't expect them to remember where their CV went.
Yeah, because sadly, it's the recruitment. It's become a sort of recruitment version of swiping right on Tinder until you got a match.
Yeah.
And by the way, I met my wife just after Tinder came out, so she's listening. I wasn't doing that. But no, I think it's people wait to get invited to the next round before they really look seriously at the job, just because, why wouldn't you? But you said you're applying for 30 jobs a day. These days, people are applying for hundreds.
And you can't research 30 jobs in a day. You can't, so you're basically both trying to see, are we interested in each other? And then you invest more into, back to use your Tinder example, you don't start sort of working out your chat-up lines until after you've matched. And then you think, what line works well for this person? And it's the same with, it's effectively, I call it job matching anyway, so it's probably highly relevant to your Tinder example. Whereas, are you the right person for our needs? Are we the right person for your needs? And it's a lot more manageable. And the next step we're going to see, which we're starting to see, is the AI applications, which actually will be, to some extent at this stage, you can spot them because they're very nonsense applications. We advertise a project manager. They're not a project manager, but they got project on their CV and then send the application through. But you're going to end up in a situation where you have to filter a lot more just because the volume is going out.
We're already seeing it, particularly in the US, really, really big. That's right. So we jumped, and it's completely my fault. I'm supposed to be guiding us a little bit better, but you talked about recruitment technology, and I can't resist that. But we jumped straight into recruitment tech. So you start with recruitment, and you move to the HR side of things. So I'd love to understand what does your full tech stack look like at the moment, and what kind of impact has that had on your team and your business?
Before I go through tech stack, just so that everybody knows, tech stack is simply the technologies you've got and how they fit together. So when I get my recruitment software, I check it can go with the main players of the HRIS systems. So we've got Team Taylor at the ATS end. We've got our core HR system is HiBob, which is, I'd say, a premium system, but really, really good. And it's improved engagement. And most of what you do will be centered around the HRIS system, because that's where employees will go for the staff directory. That's if you've got one like HiBob, you've got basically a low-rent Facebook wall where everybody can engage and chat with each other, which we're across 15 sites, so it really helps bond people and they know what's going on, which really improved it. And then you've got your payroll system, which may or may not connect to your HR stack, because some of the better payroll systems don't have very good HR tech stacks. So what the workaround is you export spreadsheet and upload, which is quite easy to set up, so it's not a big hassle. Trying to think what the next bit is. So then we've got Assess First, which is effectively an employee development tool. So we use it for assessing candidates. We also use it to support people in their development needs. We've then got an RMS system. So we've gone with 360 learning because we can API with Bob. So again, I don't want to spend time adding and removing people from a system. What you want is the system to say who's on the next system. So basically, we manage Bob really tightly, and it will add in.
That's your one source of truth. That's sort of the backbone of everything.
And it also actually drives a lot of the IT stuff. So you can link it to the IT directories so that they know who should and shouldn't be on our systems. We also have automated notifications. So from a compliance security point of view, it really locks us down. But it will make sure we better be very good at using Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. And did I hear you say you use Smartsheets to...
Yes. So Smartsheets is our offline automation. So whichever systems you get, no matter how good they are, there's always something you want to do. It might be quirky for your organization or something else. And Smartsheets is effectively an Excel. It's a shared online hosted Excel with really easy automation at the back end. So it's effectively coding blocks, but you basically got a logical path. If this column changes to this date, then send this message to this person. I'm giving a really simple example, but we use it for forms. We have an employee of the month thing. We call it Spotlight Award, but basically we create a form. You can nominate someone there. We can read it out the back end, which basically means rather than us sending out emails, collating emails and all that, we can actually just look at a list and decide who wins the award this month. And I think any HR team needs to start developing the skills of soft automation. My team wasn't doing it 3 years ago. I wasn't doing it 3 years ago, but we sat down, we looked at it, reviewed it, and we've shared the knowledge, and all 6 of us can do soft automation. So it's not that hard, it's just scary before you do it, that's all.
And so I think it's really interesting, and I definitely agree that it's core skill set that any HR team, or actually any team in an organization today really needs. Okay. Have you got someone who it's most of their job, or is this just something that you weave into everything you do? Can we automate this? How do we leverage technology?
So we weave it into everything we do. We don't have a big enough team to have a specialist on it, but a couple of us are more tech savvy than the others, let's say, and we take the lead. And at every system, I nominate somebody that I expect to be 100% up to date on that system. 3 years ago, when we were rebuilding our tech stack, because we basically got rid of all the old tech stack and got in new, modern sort of SaaS systems. At the beginning, I was the expert on each one coming in, and now I'm really not, because as you build it out, it gets more complicated. And so, I know who's in charge of understanding a Bob update and how we can use it. I know who's in charge of Assess First, because all of these are different providers adding different functionality. And it's usually free because it's SaaS, where they're bringing it in so that you don't go to a competitor. So actually we need somebody to go, actually there's something new we can do here. It will save us time, it will add value. So each system has a couple of SMEs, and their job is just to look out and say, hey, there's something new we can do here that we could use. I might then get involved with saying, well, why don't we use it this way?
Really interesting. So you've built all of this up. What's the impact been on your team, aside from being able to pick up these new skills?
I think there's a couple of things. I think we would have fallen over without good technology. And we've got a forward-thinking CEO who's always let me pick the technology that will let me get the job done. And that really helps, because when you get non-users fight you on it, it can be hard, but I've got a really forward-thinking CEO in that regard. So we would have fallen over without it. The admin would have swamped us. Morale also would have been low, because whenever my team get frustrated with too much admin, we sit down and look at how we can automate some of it so that we can do what we do, and that's support people. We don't want to be writing emails. We don't even write to candidates. So the candidates feel we're writing to them, but we actually spend a lot of time getting really good, sophisticated automation. But what we're actually doing, we've got a candidate, we drag and drop between swim lanes. And if you move to this swim lane, you get that message. And we've got messages that say, hey, we're just looking at your CV for a while now, but here's some more about our company. We've got, obviously, the reject letters. You've got various types and everything. We even find time to give feedback to candidates, which a lot of companies don't. But it actually really improves your employer brand if you can. But I can't do that if I'm spending all my time on admin.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So that's what you've done with your team.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're able to focus on the value areas. You're able to you're not getting dragged down by the admin. You've got more motivated, more awesome team. What does that mean for the rest of the business? What do you see your role as for the rest of Atmos?
Ironically, all this tech lets us focus on person to person. I spend more time coaching than I used to. We also have a little bit of fun with it. So the first automation we built on Bob, which is still in the system, is if you put your dependent's marriage date, so your anniversary date, Bob will send you an email 1 week before your anniversary so you don't forget it.
I love it. I love it. If there's one productivity hack that I'm on with you.
And I'm not saying you should buy an HR system so that you can stop people getting into major marital fights. But people do comment on it because actually it's a humane deployment of it. And we can just have a much better experience because people don't spend the whole day with HR. They don't spend the whole day chasing stuff from us. They just want to know what's going on. We've got 15 sites. They can talk to each other a lot better. We can get out to sites and actually, so one of the powerful tools we've got is surveying via our HR system. So if we get a few murmurings of a problem, and we've done this a few times, we build a quick survey, we send it out, if it's site-based or department-based, we send it out to the people it may or may not affect. Sometimes we get the results back and we go, well, chatting to a few noisy people, there's no real problem there. Other times we go, oh yeah, that's the tip of the iceberg, let's go in. We're solving their problems quicker. And I know some stuff we picked up in one site, you dug in a bit deeper and there's some simple problems we could solve with facilities. We work with our facilities colleagues, and like our Bristol office, if you're ever down in Bristol, one of the nicest offices to go to, is amazing. And that was all from staff feedback. We were listening to them. I couldn't have done it without systems. The systems couldn't tell me the answer, but they could let me find out what's going on. And then I can actually say, right, here's how we solve it, feed it into people far better than I that can actually deliver that solution.
And how about, so right at the beginning, you were talking about employee experience, you were talking about the effectiveness of the workforce.
Yeah.
Have you been able to bring in the same principles to support, the actual core of what the business does or any of the other functions? What do you see your role in there?
So some of it is upskilling the awareness of what tech can do for you. So I used to, I'd say 5 years ago, writing a job description, if it doesn't already exist, can take me an hour.
Yes.
Now it takes me about 10 minutes. You go on Copilot and you go talk to the workforce. They don't even realize Copilot can do this. So somebody will go and say, hey, I spent a long time to save you time. I've written you a job description. Like, that doesn't save me time anymore. And so it's raising that awareness. Our next stage, we're still building out the functionality of our learning system, but some of it will be on your technical skills. Some of it is just be aware of what's coming, because AI is going to get deployed quicker. The speed you can do stuff now is so much quicker than it was a few years ago, but that's going to increase exponentially. And 5 years from now, it's going to be very different to what it is today.
Feels like 5 months from now, it's going to be different from what it is today.
Like, I've got 20 years left in my career, so if I become out of date now, I'm obsolete midway through. And everybody's got to start thinking like that. Say, how do we stay ahead of the curve, and also take the fear away? Sadly, AI is not going to give us a shorter working week. I wish it would. But what it's going to do is allow us to go to better value stuff. So you either work with it and become more productive, or you're going to be part of the workforce that's going, I'm struggling here. And what we've got to do is give people courage and say, look, this isn't a threat. This is how you get good at your job.
There's a great acronym. One of my previous guests told me, which was FOBO, which is fear of becoming obsolete.
Yes.
And saying that in a sort of, that's one of the main things that stops people engaging with AI at the moment. But once you sort of get over that and start saying, okay, well, actually, my ideal outcome here, Jerry, is that you pick up the AI and you stay with us and you do high value stuff. That's the outcome I want. Now that means that you have to do the AI piece, but I think that's how a lot of us are feeling at the moment, sort of running businesses.
And it changes the skill set you want, right? So 3 years ago, and this isn't very long, he's not even in my career, and I still feel I've got a way to go, but 3 years ago, I started bringing in, we're a financial services company, everybody's got to be numeric. Unless there's a good reason, every applicant was asked, can you do pivot tables and VLOOKUPs? I'm now starting to think, well, does that help me anymore? Because 3 years ago, that was somebody financially literate. Maybe the compulsory question is, have you used Copilot, ChatGPT or similar to help you in your work? Because actually, we've got really experienced people we value. We often want to pair them with people with less experience, but who are quicker at picking up the new tools. And if you add that experience to that tech savviness, you've got two highly productive people.
Amazing. There was this was one of the many exciting near misses of my life, but ages ago. So we started Instant Impact as an early career, mostly graduate recruitment business.
Yeah.
And we were pitching one of the big banks on starting a sort of micro early career, so school leavers and university leavers. And instead of having them join the main contingent, essentially what you would do is you pair them up with the most senior people in the organization, and the idea is that they spin out new business units together. So you get the junior person doing the heavy lifting, bringing in the new technology, bringing in the new ways of working. You get the senior person spotting the opportunity and bringing in the experience. This close to getting off the ground. But I think that kind of, like you're talking about before, that kind of partnering, strength and strength could be so powerful.
And that's when I talk diversity, and we do the strategy is diversity by design, but that's what I'm talking about, is people that think in different ways. And I don't talk about, I do have high performing individuals, but I talk about building high performing teams. And that means you get somebody who's really good at that strand, what are all their weaknesses, and you bring in people really good at their weaknesses. And that's actual diversity, and that's what you're looking at. Because I've got super skilled, heavily experienced people. I don't need alongside them super skilled, heavily experienced people with all the same weaknesses. I need an enabler alongside them, and you put them together, you can learn off their experience. They know the industry, they can show you how to deal with clients, but you need somebody that can help you do it all more effectively. And between them, they're both going to progress.
It's really interesting and topical, because I feel like where the workforce is going is it's going to become much less blocky than it is at the moment, and much more fluid. And I think that what you're talking about there around partnering up strengths within specific teams and then within the organization as a whole, you're going to be looking for, I suppose, strengths and ability and mindset, and how that's going to add value to the team, and that will work for 6 months, and then a new piece of technology will come in and then it won't work, and then you're going to have to reposition, redeploy. And that's why you need the L&D system, which is going to be self-serve and lots of micro learning in the moment. But all of that feels so complex. It's taken, it was a relatively straightforward job of fill team with people, train, promote, performance management, remove, replace, to something that is really fluid, really fast moving. How are you squaring that away when you're thinking of your workforce in the future and helping your organization tap into some of these trends that are going on?
So I think that's a really valid point, that there is so much information out there. You could spend 1,000,000 years and not learn all of what you've got on your phone in your pocket. So HR has a role in helping filter the noise, but also in guiding people of the right behavioural traits. So one of the pieces of work we're doing, we separated from a parent company 3 years ago. We had a cultural push then, and you should revisit every now and then. And we're looking at the behavioural traits. So if you like, cultural, behavioural values that we have. And we're doing a piece of work at the moment, and it's really to help our people. If you've got these behavioural values, you're going to do well in your job. And some of its success traits involve learning and drive, because you've got to have that attitude to, I want to go forward, because the world is moving forward, and what we want is our people to stay with it. And we've got really smart people, they just need a point in the right direction. But then you've got the behavioural traits that are of higher value than they ever were. Feedback, because if you're in a high learning environment, which nearly all environments are, actually feedback's part of learning, is not getting upset when you fail, the old fail fast, learn quick, because actually as stuff is changing, you're not always going to get it right first time. And so it's actually, how do we condition people that they're in a much better position to succeed? Because what I want for all my people is, the more they succeed, the more I succeed.
Absolutely right. And on that note, I feel like that beautiful soundbite at the end, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. Heath, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers.